on a crusade across the nation and try to do away with the homosexuals, then we certainly would have done it on June the 8th after one of the most overwhelming victories in the country. But we didn't. We tried to avoid it and went into a place called Norfolk, Virginia, and were met with protest and all kinds of problems. And
Security agent, security agent.
No, let him stay.
No.
Let him stay.
Well, at least it's a fruit pie. Huh.
Let's pray for him right now. Anita, let's pray. That's all right.
Father, we want to thank you for the opportunity of coming to Des Moines. And Father, I want to ask that you forgive him.
That we love him.
And that we love him.
It's the end of the world as we know it. I feel fine.
Good morning, slaves, and welcome to another edition of It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine, the most offensive news show on the planet. I am your host, Stimulator, and a lot of shit has gone down since I left for my West Coast tour. The United States continued its wholesale murder of brown babies in Obamastan, while the military-industrial gobblers from the Democratic Party gave the man your mama calls Obama $106 billion to continue fucking shit up for the next 2 months. That's about $53 billion a month to fight that dumbass war while you struggle to pay that credit card bill and put gas in your car. Yep, petrol prices are back on the rise with a barrel setting you back about $70. It makes me wonder what the whole point of Operation Iraqi Liberation was all about. Meanwhile, our newest piece of shit president continued breaking campaign promises by backing the Defense of Marriage Act, which denies federal benefits to same-sex married couples. But just to make sure y'all know where Obama stands on the issue of same-sex marriage, I want to play you this clip from October 2008.
Define marriage.
I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman. Now, for me as a Christian, it's also a sacred union. God's in the mix.
This reminds me of another piece of shit from back in the 90s.
An open statement by a service member that he or she is a homosexual will create a rebuttable presumption that he or she intends to engage in prohibited conduct. But the service member will be given an opportunity to refute that presumption. In other words, to demonstrate that he or she intends to live by the rules of conduct that apply in the military service.
Yep, the man who sprayed trails all over Monica's dress was also a Democrat who had no love for the gay community. These days, Barack can be heard backpedaling because gay folks in the U.S. are a force to be reckoned with.
The community is at the point now where they feel like the Democratic Party has turned their back on them. Gay people in this country feel as though the Democrats and President Obama literally feel as if gays are some kind of political pariah that they shouldn't touch. So the only alternative people have is to fight back, to punish the party.
But before you decide to join the motherfucking resistance and punish Obama, check this shit out.
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes. In some cases because evidence may be tainted, but who nonetheless pose a threat to the security of the United States. If and when we determine that the United States must hold individuals to keep them from carrying out an act of war, we will do so within a system that involves judicial and congressional oversight. And so going forward, my administration will work with Congress to develop an appropriate legal regime so that our efforts are consistent with our values and our Constitution.
They were going to be waiting for me in the car.
He was going to rape me.
I was going to be stabbed.
Right here. Within a year, pre-crime effectively stopped murder in our nation's capital.
Yep, that punk motherfucker wants the power to detain you and keep you in prison indefinitely for future crimes you have not yet committed. The police state has also been in effect over here in Canada. If you are vocally opposing the Winter Olympics, aka
the 5 rings of death,
you may get a little visit from the popo. The cops dropped in on 15 members of Vancouver's Olympic Resistance Network, but the activists did not say a peep to the pigs since they have a policy of not cooperating. Submedia contacted one of the agents to ask why the f*** they are harassing the motherfuckers. resistance.
Why not, right? We've been waiting for a chance. The #1 list that CSIS have of domestic threats are people like anti-globalization, anti-racist protesters, indigenous activists, environmentalists, animal rights activists. And those are the type of people that we can target by going through the Olympics. The Olympics is like a great excuse to bring in every element of the security state that we normally can't get away with. Public video monitoring, random searches, intimidation of activists, harassing your neighbors, your family, your workplace. Normally we'd get in a little bit of grief for that, but right now it's like a free-for-all for the police. It's the best time ever for police in Vancouver to do whatever they want.
But while the powers that be ramp up their efforts to silence our movement, brave peeps continue to confront the gluttonous capitalist pigs who relentlessly destroy our home in the name of profit. In Peru, hundreds of indigenous freedom fighters paid with their lives as they battled the pigs to protect their land from logging and gas extraction. In Canada, Mohawk warriors shut down a US border crossing in protest to the arming of Canadian border guards on their land. In West Virginia, 14 activists shut down a massive dragline for several hours. The dragline is a humongous piece of machinery used for the extraction of so-called clean coal. And last but not least, rabble-rousers in New York City busted into several corporate stores and read aloud excerpts from the controversial French book, The Coming Insurrection, which was recently published into English. The anonymously authored book rightly predicts the imminent collapse of capitalist culture.
What is called catastrophe is no more than the forced suspension of this state. Stop the exchange! Of those rare moments when we regain some sort of presence in the world.
My translation: the summer of rage has officially begun. As I traversed the United States on expensive gas and cheap burritos, I heard of Obama's overhyped speech to the Muslim world in Cairo.
It is agonizing for America to lose our young men and women. It is costly and politically difficult to continue this conflict. We would gladly bring every single one of our troops home.
Does anybody else smell bullshit? To decipher Barack's doublespeak, I spoke with renegade Professor Ward Churchill, Bill O'Reilly's worst nightmare, and author of A Little Matter of Genocide. Hey Prof, how the f*** are you?
How am I? I'm good.
So, check it out.
Palestinians must abandon violence. Resistance through violence and killing is wrong, and it does not succeed. For centuries, black people in America suffered the lash of the whip as slaves and the humiliation of segregation. But it was not violence that won full and equal rights. It was a peaceful and determined insistence upon the ideals at the center of America's founding. This same story can be told by people from South Africa to South Asia, from Eastern Europe to Indonesia. It's a story with a simple truth. Violence is a dead end. It is a sign neither of courage nor power to shoot rockets at sleeping children or to blow up old women on a bus. That's not how moral authority is claimed. That's how it is surrendered.
So he followed that by announcing the withdrawal of U.S. military forces from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, and elsewhere around the planet immediately.
Wait, really?
Because violence never accomplishes a rightful objective, right? And U.S. aircraft and drones will no longer be firing missiles into buses filled with old women and children. Is that correct? No, that's absolutely nauseatingly Obama. If they believed that for a moment, they'd be doing the things I just talked about. Oh, only when you are in resistance to oppression in the existing order is it that violence supposedly never accomplishes anything. He, like everybody else who's been in position of power, presidential power, or something related in the United States in the course of its history, is perfectly willing to wield power in order to accomplish results, unless he's denouncing the entire structure, existence, and history of the United States. That was absolutely hypocritical rhetoric.
So what the f does that have to do with the Israeli-Palestinian clusterfuck?
Israel was born in violence and terrorism. The methods used by Arab terrorists at present were learned from Zionist terrorists who constructed the state of Israel on that basis, destabilized the region to the point where you had the creation of state by third party in the United Nations, supported by Great Britain and the United States at the time, and subsequently supported as well. Unless he considers the state of Israel to be illegitimate, you again have that aura of absolutely hypocritical rhetoric attaching. Either that or he's utterly ignorant of the facts of the situation. I don't believe he's ignorant. I do believe he's a hypocrite.
And what about Obama's assertion that black liberation occurred purely through nonviolent means?
At best, he does not know his own history. And that's a history that occurred in the 1960s with the civil rights movement he's talking about. Martin Luther King was disparaged and targeted for elimination as a communist or a comm-simp or an uppity Negro or any of a number of other things depending on the perspective, the standpoint, the status of the individual who was disparaging, whether they were in the FBI, whether they were in Congress, whether they were in state government, whether they were the local white residents of Jim Crow South. Okay? King got essentially nowhere in very real terms, right up to the point where, well, I suppose another individual came up with the slogan, but Stokely Carmichael made the speech on black power and repudiated nonviolence. Now you got something that's scarier than the changing of the status quo. King becomes the preferred option. Okay, the black power advocates, the black liberation movement, that struggle empowered King to become essentially a symbolic token for a rearrangement of power relations that would not otherwise have been attainable. And that's an absolute insult to the memory of the people who struggled in armed capacity, in concert with King's movement in the South, and did a considerable amount of sacrifice, considerable amount of suffering, and considerable amount of dying to break that particular status quo at that particular point. Barack Obama is not the least in terms of owing them an absolutely unequivocal debt for what they did, and for him to just eclipse them in his revisionist account of how that process worked is inexcusable.
Thanks, Prof.
We have plenty of regulation. The problem is that nobody's obeying the regulations. Nobody's obeying the law. Hank Paulson is now up for criminal indictment for having squandered those TARP funds in a criminal syndicate along with his banking buddies. So these guys are facing serious jail time. They have apparently made off with tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of the citizens' money. Outright theft under what you could call RICO, which is anti-racketeering laws. That's why the people are upset. And there's a global insurrection against corporate occupation. I'm siding with the global insurrectionists. I think they've got a great point. And I want my face out there and let them know I'm on their side, because they're going to win this battle, because these banking oligarchs have gone too far and they're going down.
It's the end of the world as we know it. I feel fine.
Good morning, slaves, and welcome to another edition of It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine, the show that puts the fun between your legs. I am your host, the Stimulator, and yes, Michael Jackson is dead. Now, why would I report on the most overreported story in history? Well, because it's the first time in a long f***ing while that the ass-munching turd tokers, also known as the mainstream media, had given more than 5 minutes of airtime to the death of a brown person. Never mind.
A black man made the skin white and the hair straight, and you know why? No. You sick fucking country make the black man hate himself just like you had the Arab and the children you bomb over here.
And in other overreported news, police in Tehran used batons and tear gas against protesters who are unhappy with the current government. Wait a motherfucking minute, that's the wrong tape. That's in St. Paul last year from the RNC. Hold on. Hey, what the f*** is going on back there? Come on, Joe, get it together. Anyways, while America was busy distracted with Jacko's autopsy, there was a coup in Honduras, a country that served as a staging area for many CIA and U.S. military operations.
They authorized up to $20 million worth of emergency military assistance to Honduras, including the use of U.S. piloted helicopters to fly Honduran troops into the battle area.
Apparently, the motherfuckers on top wanted to seize power and plug the northward moving wave of change that has swept South America. But those naive motherfuckers don't understand the non-linear nature of the motherfucking resistance. Just a little bit north in Guatemala, Mayan villagers burned a pickup truck and an exploration drilling rig belonging to the mining douchebags from Goldcorp. In Mexico, the Earth Liberation Front torched a police truck in solidarity with Peruvian freedom fighters killed in June while defending their land. And in West Virginia, NASA scientist James Hansen was arrested along with 30 others for trying to enter a facility owned by the mountain-destroying dick twirlers from Massey Energy. Hansen and company are pissed off at Massey for their destructive practice of mountaintop removal to extract so-called clean coal.
Not only something we should do, it's a responsibility to draw attention to the matter and to try to get Washington to pay attention. They can't compromise their way out of this. They've got to realize they've got to phase out coal emissions. And you have to start with mountaintop removal because of all the other things that it does. Mountaintop removal provides only 7% of our coal. We could stop it right now.
In the nation's capital, protesters blocked the street in an act of defiance to Obama's meeting with Colombia's Álvaro Uribe. These two pieces of shit were gangsta planning to expropriate more lands from indigenous Colombians for oil and gas extraction through a much-hated bilateral free trade agreement. And if that wasn't retarded enough, check this shit out.
The energy bill that passed the House will finally create a set of incentives that will spark a clean energy transformation in our economy. It will spur the development of low-carbon sources of energy, everything from wind, solar, and geothermal power to safer nuclear energy and cleaner coal.
The much-touted American Clean Energy Security Act passed the House by a slim margin and is being hailed as an ambitious step towards curbing carbon emissions. But as you just heard, that punk motherfucker keeps pushing dangerous and dirty energies that benefit the greedy motherfuckers that funded his campaign and who don't give a flying fuck whether or not you and I can breathe the air. But in Vancouver, British Columbia, over 5,000 folks took to the streets to promote a clean, safe, and carbon-free mode of transport.
I come to Critical Mass to make a place where bikes are the norm. I want to have streets where, you know, you can ride down the street and be the expected occupant of the street instead of a whole bunch of cars. So yeah, Critical Mass kind of makes that area where I don't have to worry about cars running into me, changing lanes onto me. I just got, you know, my 1,000 closest friends to watch my back.
While many folks are happy that thieving son of a bitch Bernie Madoff got a gazillion years in Club Fed, you and I know that the crooked-ass gangsters that control this shit are still running wild like starving dingoes on the set of Barney the Dinosaur. Makes you want to smash some shit, doesn't it? And as the economy continues to collapse, more and more decent and hardworking folks are forced to abandon their servitude to the banks and trade their homes for tarps in what the media has been despectively calling tent cities. To dispel mass media disinformation about these settlements, I bring you Bruce Beavers of the Seattle community of Nicholsville. Hey Bruce, how the f are you?
I'm okay.
So what the f is Nicholsville?
Well, Nicholsville is a homeless encampment that have the goal to find some permanent site and build on a place that people could be homeless and stay up to about 1,000 people.
Why the f do people live here?
Well, people live for different reasons. Me myself, I was actually my house got foreclosed on February 2008. And I wound up homeless. I bought my house in '95 in Berrien, and I lost my job. I used to work at a place called Acme Food Sales. I was a warehouse manager from '95 to 2005, and just lost the job, and I couldn't afford the mortgage no more. And I moved to a place further away, and I worked at a place called Dollar Tree. I was assistant manager, and I just couldn't make up that money that I made from being in that job for 10 years. And my house wound up being foreclosed on because I couldn't hold a mortgage. There's lots of other people that's probably in my same situation. Some have different situations. We all are different. And Nicholsville is a place that no matter who you are, they'll allow you to come in and have a place to stay. Keep your stuff, so you don't have to carry your stuff over up and down the streets. There's like a stigma with homeless folks. People don't like it because they see people carrying their clothes and pushing baskets and stuff in that nature, and they kind of steer away from you. Nicholsville is a place that allow you to keep your stuff where you have it at each day. Go in and get your showers. You can go and look for your jobs. You can look presentable, to the public, and it's not that bad of a situation.
How do you keep this operation running smoothly?
We stay together by rules. We have 2 head of securities. We have 3 arbitrators. We have 2 kitchen coordinators, 2 donation coordinators, 2 tent masters, 2 wood coordinators. And what we do, we have weekly meetings. Every day at 6 o'clock we have a meeting to talk about what's going on, what we need to do, if we need to make a new rule, if people following the rules. What happened here, when we bring people in here, you're screened for being a sex offender, you're screened for all types of things. You know, you can't have no drinking, there's no drugs, there's no violence. And if you have none of those things in your background that keep you from coming in to see us, we let you in. And you do security twice a week, 3-hour shifts. That's to give back to Nicholsville.
Do you like living here?
It's not what you would call an enjoyment type of deal. After a while, it becomes home if you're here for a while because you're not on the streets. I enjoyed having my place where I work, but since Nicholsville brought me in, I'll be able to have my stuff in a tent, and I guess I have to enjoy being it. I put it like this. It beats being on the streets and sleeping in doorways, being woke up by the police, harassed by people. Some folks actually go to sleep and the next morning they don't wake up because you have people actually robbing the homeless. Which I don't know what you're going to get out of it, but people go out in clubs and get intoxicated, see somebody sleeping on the street, they beat them up. Take what they got, just harass them for the heck of it. So it's dangerous, and it's more dangerous for women, and there's a lot of them too. So Nicholsville helped you, it will actually help you keep from having that kind of problem.
And that about does it for this edition of It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine. The following slaves get big ups for helping make the show happen. Malvada, Amy, Matthew, Jamie, Galen, Scott, Sarah, Patrick, Anita, Carl, Nicole, Carol, Sumner, Stephen, Dan, and Peter. Spasiba. To comment on this show or to give me camping tips, just visit my website, Stimulator.tv. Now beat it.
Remember, kids, you can podcast high-quality video of this show at submedia.tv.
Well, I really hate to advocate booze or drugs or violence or insanity to anybody, but it's always worked pretty well for me. That's Hunter S. Thompson.